Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you folks are waking up and feeling fantastic out there this morning on this wonderful Easter Sunday. Happy Easter to you all. He is risen. Hallelujah for that. Waking up feeling a little extra grateful this morning on this wonderful morning. So, hope you folks are waking up and getting your praise on. I know me and my family certainly will be. Here to figure out what's going to happen weather-wise for your Easter Sunday. There will be a threat of strong to severe storms across areas of the country. We'll speak on that after we get done discussing the weather for today. We will dive into what's going to happen tomorrow and for your Tuesday. Both are going to run the risk of significant severe weather. So we really need to figure this one out. We'll also talk a little bit on the snow side of the same storm system that's going to bring all this severe weather. Areas of like the interior New England region could get a lot of snow. A pretty significant late season winter storm is expected for you folks up there. Even areas like in southern New England, like Boston, could get into some of this snow also. So there's a lot to discuss over the next couple of days. April is going to start off a very active. So we'll cover everything, and we're going to do it all again tonight too. So stay tuned for tonight. We'll have a special video out. I definitely think it's important to double up on these videos because, man, we have a lot of severe weather on the way over the next few days. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. I'll pray over it, and I promise you others will do so too. Let's get rocking and rolling. So we got this ridge dominating the pattern right now. So we have just energy kind of flying on top of this ridge, if you will, the upper portion of this ridge. You see this energy up here, enough cold air north of the ridge boundary to throw some, Easter Sunday snow up here in like South Dakota. It's not going to be a huge deal or anything, but definitely some wet snow is likely throughout the day today. And then we have some storms kind of rumbling through areas of the Ohio Valley this morning. We'll get more storms that will fire later on this afternoon in this region as just energy continues, like I said, to just ride the northern portion of this ridge boundary. A little bit of moisture up here in Maine, not a big deal. Scattered moisture out here in the western U.S. It'll start to quiet down a little bit today out here, but you'll continue just to get rounds of rain in like San Diego, L.A. Definitely kind of a fire hose of moisture right through Arizona up through Utah, as this system is sort of what's driving this significant storm system that will develop, as basically southern stream energy and northern stream energy will eventually combine or merge with one another, and this will turn into a pretty significant storm system, especially for the Northeast as far as the winter weather side to this. But the middle of the country, south, I would say the southern tier of the country, is pretty quiet this morning. It's going to be a very warm Sunday, that's for sure. Storm Prediction Center for today, we did get that bump up to a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. This is between now and the next 24 hours. This isn't for tomorrow, this is for today. So we do have the marginal risk that extends all the way to the Central Plains, all the way to areas of Virginia. And we'll discuss why there's a marginal risk all the way into Virginia here in a second. But there is a slight risk right into here. This includes a very small section of southern Iowa, northeastern Missouri, through the heart of Illinois and Indiana, all the way to Cincinnati, Ohio. So, we're going to have a risk of some supercells today, even a tornado threat. And in fact, we'll look at the category risk here, and we have a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. This is really going to be a boundary driven. Any tornadoes that do maybe form today will be along a boundary right near a warm front boundary that basically separates some pretty dry, cooler air with very warm, moist air south of this boundary that's kind of being influenced or driven by this ridge in place. Now, damaging winds, a 5% risk. A hail threat, though, this is what this slight risk is really driven off of. Could get a bump up from a 2 to a 5% chance of tornadoes, but as of now, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger in this yellow area. So Indianapolis, you're included in this, and then central Illinois all the way into northeastern sections of Missouri. Excessive rainfall outlook today, it won't be a big deal. I don't think we'll have a big risk of flash flooding, but we do have a couple marginal risk, which is at least a 5% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance. Watches, warnings, and advisories, the hot pink color right in here, that's where we have red flag warnings. We continue to have just a fire danger out here, so definitely be aware of that. some winter weather advisories scattered about across the central and southern Rockies in the kind of doled out purple color, some dense fog advisories in this gray. Winter storm warnings continuing for the southern ranges of Utah, the Sierra Nevada, and even the southern California ranges down here. Flood watches are still up for the southern California coastline, but I do think they will be dropped over the next 24 hours. So we have some winter storm watches up for kind of the southern front range here in Colorado. Well, there will be a round of heavy snow that will sweep through this entire region right here, actually, most likely over the next couple days. So weather today in the southeast is going to be a pretty beautiful, even warm day. I mean, a very warm Easter Sunday expected. No real weather expected. You're going to see some energy fly on top of your screen up here. This is that northern boundary of that ridge. But everybody in the immediate southeast is just kind of under the influence of the ridge. So you get more calm, stable conditions, typically well above average temperatures. So you continue to get into this afternoon. The only thing that I will watch is up here in Virginia. You're probably going to get some storms that head out of West Virginia. It's the same storms you're seeing right now in southern Illinois, southern Ohio, northern Kentucky. These will continue to ride through West Virginia. And then once they get kind of east of the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia, they will kind of go into an environment that will try to become unstable. And then these storms could get reduced. You could get a pretty strong or severe storm in central Virginia today. And they will try to drift all the way down to like Norfolk, Virginia Beach, extreme northeast North Carolina. Could get a strong storm or two in this region. Then we could get some more storms that fire up into here, but we'll discuss this risk in a separate frame here in a second. But then the rest of the afternoon, well, the evening and the overnight hours, just some energy just riding along the upper portion of this ridge up here. But the immediate southeast, guys, is pretty quiet. Waking up to a little bit of shower activity, a little bit of a moist return here in the Tennessee Valley. But a nice day for like 85%, 90% of the southeast for sure. Really just some energy in the mid-Atlantic. Northeast today, a little bit of moisture dealing with this morning in New Hampshire and Maine, but that'll clear on out. We get into about midday today. There's that energy you're seeing in Virginia that we just discussed. And then by the time we get into this evening, there's some energy riding into Ohio in the form of mainly rain in northern Ohio, southern Michigan. But once you get to the southern section of Ohio, this could be more so storms. And I'm going to zoom into this area for you folks in a separate frame, so definitely stay tuned for that. But the rest of the Northeast, some rain, heavy rain will move into northern West Virginia, into Maryland, kind of a rounder rain into like maybe the Delmarva region overnight tonight to the wee hours of the morning for Monday morning. And then rain will take over the southern half of Pennsylvania probably overnight tonight. We're probably going to wake up to a damp start for your Monday morning across areas of southern PA, New Jersey, Delaware, all of the central and northern portions of Maryland, and extreme northern sections of Virginia as a piece of energy continues to ride through. So not much in the immediate Northeast. You'll actually finally enjoy a nice Sunday, even probably into Monday also. So enjoy your weather. South Central U.S., not a whole lot going on today. We get into this afternoon, we see that energy up in northern Missouri that we will talk about here in a second. We get into this evening, there's those storms forming around Kansas City, northern Missouri. Here comes that dominant low that's going to bring a lot of nasty weather as we are getting into Monday, which we will discuss here in a second. This low will probably kick up some gusty winds, probably in the southern high plains down here. You see some energy coming into New Mexico in the form of higher elevation snow in western New Mexico. And then we start to get into tomorrow morning, and this energy will try to bring some snow even into this region right into here, but we won't discuss that quite yet. But the immediate south central U.S., it'll be a nice day just like the southeast. Very nice weather today. Now, this is when it gets a little dicey. You got a couple things going on. This morning, you got this area of rain and snow in Nebraska and South Dakota. This will become a little bit more widespread, more consolidated throughout the afternoon. Let's talk about the snow really first. And you see just snow kind of drifting around, mainly for, I would say, the western half of South Dakota. So you'll pick up a few inches of wet snow. At the same time, you do have these storms forming down here that we will zoom into here in a second. But you see the snow dancing around here in South Dakota. Could snow a little bit in northern Nebraska. This is getting into around midnight tonight. Some snow could drift, rain or snow, in the southwestern Minnesota. But it continues just to snow at a light and moderate, maybe at times heavy pace, and throughout the state of South Dakota. It's like it just really just zooms into South Dakota, and that's about it. And then we start to get into tomorrow morning. Some of this moisture will finally kind of ooze into southern Minnesota, Wisconsin, in the form of maybe some snow you're waking up to for your April 1st here in like Minneapolis. So we'll watch out for that. And, to speak on the snow between now and the next 48 hours, just a few inches of wet snow, northern and really northwestern Nebraska, and the southern half, especially in central areas of South Dakota. 2 to 4 inches of wet snow is possible. A little bit of snow will try to ooze into southern Minnesota over the next just 48 hours. But we jump down to this severe weather threat today. Remember, there's a slight risk that goes right through this area. So we're starting off this morning. Not a whole lot going on. We're getting into about midday. I would say it's about 1, 2 p.m. Some showers, some storms ongoing in northern Missouri. Don't think those will quite be severe. But as we start to get into the afternoon, 4, 5 p.m., you see this storm right here. Some of these storms here. But the storms are kind of form in the most southern areas of all this energy. That'll be the storms, because they're more south, that'll be more in the environment that will support the strengthening to strong to severe storms. The further north you get, the more what we call elevated they get, meaning you don't have as good as like thermodynamics to work with. Dew points are certainly lower, more drier air. The further south, you have more of a robust environment for strong to severe storms. But you keep this going, and you got a couple things going on. You got some storms up here. You got 1 to 2 storms. The HRRR model, not very widespread with this at all. Could be much more widespread. But any of these storms, you get hit by any of these little small supercells. There is a risk of all hazards with them. Large hail is the biggest threat with this. But there is that isolated tornado threat. There will be a boundary somewhere, somewhere into here, give or take a couple hundred miles. All right, and any storms that kind of ride this boundary right in here, of course, there's a change of direction with winds. That creates a little extra spin to these storms. It happens a lot, really anywhere. It can happen anywhere, especially in the central and eastern U.S. But you keep this going, and, we get into the evening hours, and then we get more storms that form. And, it's going to be kind of the same setup. This is around midnight tonight. These storms kind of continue to cruise through the northern half of Missouri, through the heart of Illinois, right into Indiana. We'll speak more on Indiana and Ohio here in a second. So that takes us all the way to our April 1st, Monday morning. But, we move a little bit further east, right? And dealing with that energy this morning in southern Ohio, southern Indiana, you'll kind of get a lull sometime late this morning into this afternoon. And then here comes the storms. Here's this a nasty looking storm down here in southern Indiana that we just showed you. And then there's that one storm we just talked about. And then what are these storms going to do as they get closer to like Louisville, Cincinnati, Dayton? And, the radar based off the HRRR model doesn't look very impressive, but it could be a lot more widespread than this. The further north you get, more widespread just range you get. But it's anybody down here that, you got to watch out for. Right down here. There's going to be like a separation between unstable air, more moist air, better Cape values, better storm fuel down here, and then not so much up here. So this is the area you watch for any kind of storm development that gets going. This will certainly have a better environment to work with. And, this is getting into about 10 p.m. And then here comes some more storms riding this boundary. Some of these storms could latch onto that boundary and go tornado warning. So please be careful. Anywhere from northern Missouri, central Illinois, central Indiana, even a little bit further south into Ohio. Certainly need to watch out for these storms today. And then this energy will move on, and then we'll watch more energy as it sets the stage for a big severe weather day for our Monday. Updraft Felicity swath over the next 24 hours. It really likes the idea of maybe a supercell or two forming in this area right here, which is where you do have your highest tornado threat right into here. But you notice just not a widespread huge signal. But I'm telling you guys, please be aware of a tornado threat in this area today. There's Indiana and Ohio. It really significantly drops off. But, this entire region right here, watch for that tornado threat. Watch for any of those storms to latch onto that boundary. So, Western U.S. will continue just to get a pivot of scattered moisture out here today. The Central Rockies, higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. You guys know the deal. And we'll continue to get this spin. You'll just get on and off kind of showers and storms throughout southern and central California, and sort of just more scattered rains and higher elevation snows across Arizona. And we'll continue to get this spin, more of a consolidated area of snow in Wyoming. Once you get into Montana and really Idaho and the Pacific Northwest, things kind of cut off significantly. You don't see much today. Nice Easter, but there's all that moisture in the Four Corners region. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning and a much more calmer start for California and Nevada for sure. But rainfall between now, or precipitation between now and the next 24 hours, really just confined to the central southern Rockies and the plains. But, you look at snow over the next 24 hours and, certainly could pick up several inches of snow in these higher elevations of the central and southern Rockies. So if you live higher up, more late season snow on the way. Temperatures. Man, you can see what that boundary is, can't you? Right into here. Remember I was talking about that boundary separating warm, moist air with more dry, stable air? There it is, right over the Ohio Valley, Midwest. You head on down to southern Indiana, southern Illinois, it's going to reach the 80s today. But you head on up to Chicago, you might not get out the 40s. So, definitely a boundary in place. And down here, it is unstable, but of course you need energy to work with too. You're not going to have any energy right up underneath the ridge of high pressure. Nice warm days, 70s and 80s across the southern tier of the country, even some 90s in Texas, but much cooler up here, but not miserably cold at all. Out west, certainly pockets of cooler than average temperatures, pockets of maybe a little bit above average temperatures, but all in all, not too extreme one way or the other. I will say the plains, the high plains of eastern Colorado will warm pretty nice. It'll be a nice day, and you could turn around and get snow 24 hours later. We'll speak more on that in some coming videos. So let's give you an update on this severe weather threat for tomorrow. So there has been some changes. I would say the hail threat, which is going to be a significant threat, and the tornado threat are kind of separated from one another. So we got an enhanced risk from basically, let's just say Oklahoma City all the way to Evansville, Indiana. It includes southern Illinois, basically the central, south central sections and southwestern areas, especially of Missouri, all the way down to northwestern sections of Arkansas, and good slug of eastern Oklahoma and central Oklahoma and southeastern Kansas. Level 3 out of 5 risk, and enhanced risk. So what is this driven off of? Well, the tornado threat is more so up here, and we'll talk about why here in a second. Don't want to get too deep into it right now. 10% risk of a tornado in this yellow area. This includes Springfield, just about pretty much includes St. Louis to Evansville and southern sections. I think, Carbondale includes you guys in this area right here. And then in a very even smaller area, you have a 10% risk also of a significant tornado, which is an EF2 or higher. So you have a hatched risk inside this 10% risk area. So it's a big day tomorrow. All right, but you got a 5% risk of a tornado all the way from northern Texas all the way to almost Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville, and pretty much almost about Lexington, Kentucky. All right, what about the wind threat? Guys, you got a 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. We might get a hatch risk of this here in the coming updates, but pretty large area right in the enhanced risk, right? 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour, and then the yellow, a 15% risk of that. Hail threat's going to be pretty significant, guys. All right, this is a pretty significant enhanced risk. We might get a bump up to moderate. We'll have to watch. But you got a 30% risk right in the red area of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. Then a 15% risk in the yellow area, that same criteria. But the thing you got to worry about is you also have a 10% risk in this black outline region of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. That's damaging hail. That's hail that's going to put some dents in a lot of things. So we're probably going to have some people in the weather community, I'm not laughing, but they call it gorilla hail. But we're probably going to have some baseball-sized hail with some of these storms. Significant risk for sure. But you keep going. We take a look at what the radar could look like in this area. We're not going to go into the ingredients in this video. We've done that a lot. We'll probably do that again tonight. We'll talk about a couple things with the ingredients. But, we take it to about 5 p.m. tomorrow. Look at these explosive storms in northern Texas, the heart of Oklahoma. And there could be some lone supercells or semi-discrete supercells. Look at the snow falling tomorrow in eastern Colorado after getting into the 70s today. Tomorrow it'll be snowing. So, everybody has that same phrase where if you don't like the weather today, just wait another day and it'll be different. But it's the real deal in Colorado for sure, in the plains. But strong to severe storms producing very large hail. The tornado threat will be there with these. These storms will be rotating. I just don't think the low-level jet's going to be here with this to be where the worst tornado threat's going to be. But you're certainly going to have a tornado threat in these areas. These storms are rumbling through eastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, southwestern Missouri. I'm going to show more Missouri here in a second. Rumbling through Springfield, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. And man, these storms could really be producing some very large hail down in Dallas-Fort Worth area, down to southeastern Oklahoma. This is getting at 10-11 p.m. The sun's setting tomorrow evening. And then they're rumbling through Arkansas. And we could have some more storms that try to form after this. But this is as far out as it goes in the middle of the night tomorrow night. Looks like the storms lose some steam once they get into Arkansas. But we'll have to watch model trends with this. But definitely some big-time storms. And, you do look at the updraft Felicity swath. And you look at this, you would say, oh, no, that doesn't look good at all. You see all these highlighted areas. This is where this particular run of the HRRR model is trying to show rotation. Doesn't mean a tornado, but solid rotation with these storms. And, I think these storms will be rotating like crazy. It's just, are we going to get any kind of tightening up of the rotation? You can get that broad rotation all day. You look up in the sky, it looks like it's spinning. But unless you get that tight rotation, you're not really going to get a tornado. And I think you really need the low-level wind profiles for that. And I just don't think that'll be there for here. But I do think we'll get some tornado warnings and probably confirmed tornadoes in this area. So please be aware. Not trying to downplay it. You guys know that. But one thing that's really driving such a high-end hail risk is these CAPE levels that are really going to spike or reach I would say the CAPE levels are going to get higher in this region. You're probably going to get pushed closer to 3,000 joules per kilogram. A lot of CAPE in the atmosphere down here, but you probably have more of a capping in place down here to prevent any storms from getting going. But definitely this CAPE will rise big time in this region. Then the storms will eat it all up. And plenty of fuel in the atmosphere. The reason you don't have such a high-end tornado threat in this area, right into here, you do once you get into Missouri, but like eastern Oklahoma, is because, you get into this afternoon, these storms are exploding right into here. But look, there's not really any sort of low-level jet rumbling through this area. No really low-level wind field. You got one down here, but where these storms are firing up, there's just weak flow in the low levels. You got this area right in here, but this is really just driven off the storms that are forming, kind of creating their own low-level profiles. But even as you get into this evening, it takes a while for the low-level jet to really get going. It takes all the way until about late Monday evening, and then it gets going. And then if you read the Storm Prediction Center discussion, that's when they discuss the tornado threat will become the highest. And certainly you get up into Missouri and Illinois, you take a look at these storms here in this region, and let's back it up a little bit. This is about mid-morning tomorrow. Just kind of scattered storms. These could already be producing hail up here. Probably more elevated up here in northern Illinois, meaning, you're just, like I said, you're lacking thermodynamics, but they still have the opportunity to produce a lot of hail up here. But, some of this energy was already, you got plenty of lift in the atmosphere. You got this mid-level jet streak going up this region, creating a lot of lift. You already got nasty storms ongoing, and especially the southern half of Indiana, Illinois. Look at these storms ongoing in the southern half of Indiana around 3 to 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, producing probably large hail, even a tornado threat in this region for sure. But I think it's after kind of this main push right here moves on out. You see these storms firing up here in Missouri. These are the storms I'm the most concerned about. And it looks like they kind of combine into a line, kind of a line segment, almost what we call an MCS, mesoscale convective system. But this is when the low-level jet really ramps up. It's 9-10 p.m. at this point. Springfield into here, Columbia up here, St. Louis, Boot Hill, Missouri down here. Low-level jet begins to kind of overlap this area of convection. This means the kinematics get supportive for tornadoes. So we really need to watch right when you start to get to about late evening, this entire region. I know this looks really kind of congealed. There's nothing really discrete, but the low-level jet really starts to get cranking in this area with these storms. And this is when it gets really dangerous, I think, after the sun goes down. But it's already going to be dangerous tomorrow afternoon and evening. But please watch out if you live from even the Fayetteville, Arkansas through the Ozarks, Springfield, St. Louis could get enhanced by that boundary in place. And these storms continue. And you could have that ongoing tornado threat all the way to the Boot Hill, Missouri, all the way to southern Illinois, Evansville, Indiana, riding over the mid-Mississippi Valley. And this is as far out as it goes. We're going to re-go over all this tonight, so stay tuned. But look at these storms kind of riding over the Mississippi River, about to move into Kentucky, and still packing a punch, creating severe weather, and it's about to move into the Mississippi Valley and the Mid-South, basically, Ohio Valley. But you look at the updraft velocity swath in this region. This is just through tomorrow about midday. This is from the morning storms and what's going to happen today in this area. But watch what happens as you start to get later. And I'm telling you, we got to watch some storms riding that boundary, that ridge boundary right in here. Could have some afternoon tornadoes that are possible in Indiana. But watch as you get into tomorrow evening. It's getting around 7, 8 p.m. Look how, it starts to become much more widespread down into here as we're getting into tomorrow evening. That is because that low-level jet really ramps up. And to really explain what I'm talking about here, this is, this is tomorrow morning. Watch what happens as we're getting tomorrow midday, tomorrow afternoon. Not much of a low-level wind profile that's supportive for tornadoes. You got pockets here and there, kind of isolated 30 to 40 knot low-level jet here and there off just impulses of energy. But it's really the widespread low-level jet that really gets going like late tomorrow evening. You see in this right in here, really the low-level bulge right in here is really what's getting going. And, you start to get more of a widespread looking low-level jet driving all this convection in this region, pushing 30, 40, 50 knot low-level jet, pockets of that 50 knot low-level jet. And that's that kinematics, that low-level kinematics that are supportive for tornadoes in this region. So please be aware. And, these storms will be ongoing. This is midday tomorrow morning. You already got storms midday tomorrow afternoon. You already got storms ongoing in Kentucky, Indiana, and check out these storms as they begin to ride through the Ohio Valley. I know I'm chopping off Ohio, but I really think the northern half of Ohio will be stable, but we'll see what happens. You got to watch that boundary. But look at all these storms riding the border of Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio into West Virginia. These are supercells, guys. This is tomorrow afternoon. So, even though like Tuesday is going to be the big day in this region, tomorrow is going to be very active also. And these storms just kind of ride all the way down to Virginia tomorrow evening. We got storms as far southeast as northern North Carolina. But these storms, I think, will be lacking kinematics, but they will be able to produce some gusty winds, some hail. I just think they're kind of lacking that low-level profile. But we cannot rule out this. This is a tricky setup. And I think they do lose some steam overnight. And this sets the stage for all this activity you're seeing on this side of your screen that's going to make its way this way. And honestly, there's a lot of chatter, and I could see why, about Tuesday being a bigger tornado threat. As of right now, we do have that bump up to an enhanced risk for Tuesday. Okay, right here in Kentucky, southern Ohio, and West Virginia. So, southern Ohio will see more impacts Tuesday. I think that it won't be, I would say, as high-end wind ingredient driven in southern Ohio today as it will be, Monday as it will be for your Tuesday. But a slight risk all the way from the northern areas of the Deep South all the way to the areas of the Mid-Atlantic, guys. And, all we know is that there's a 30% chance of severe weather within 25 miles of the given location in this red area. I think Tuesday's going to be a big day too. And the only thing we can really look at with this, guys, is some of the global models. And, we're starting off Tuesday morning. There's the low right here. This low begins to get strong. And it's really this low that comes in right here. That's the first initial low. So sometimes I get them confused. Here comes the low right here, 994 millibar low. And what's really happening here is this is really getting juiced up by northern stream energy coming down, strengthening this storm system. But already, we take it to Tuesday afternoon. You see these splotches of yellows and oranges and things like that. Those are some strong to severe storms. 992 millibar low cruising into Ohio. You already know that there's going to be one heck of a low-level jet screaming through this region, driving all these storms with a slither of cape that's going to be fuel for these storms also. I mean, this thing's cruising through. This is your typical low-level jet geographical area outside of a surface low. So certainly, I think you're going to have higher end wind profiles, kinematics for Tuesday for sure. And this thing starts to get trapped, starts to spin around, huge broad area of low pressure. These storms will be rumbling right towards the Appalachian Mountains, producing the chance for all hazards. And you can see it here. Tuesday morning, low-level jets already pushing over 50 knots across areas of the Ohio Valley and the Apps and the Appalachian Mountain Range. Okay, and you keep this going, if we can get it going. Come on, baby, work with me. We get to midday Tuesday. I mean, this is tons of kinematic fuel to drive these storms. And I mean, as we get into Tuesday afternoon, folks, I mean, this is a 50 to 60 knot low-level jet. I think you're going to probably get a pretty significant risk of damaging winds in this area, and then you're going to have probably a 10% risk of tornadoes in this area. I mean, that is a favorable kinematic profile. I mean, it just continues. All right, so definitely need to watch out. And this gets all the way down to the Carolinas. We got to watch what happens Tuesday night and Wednesday morning down in the Carolinas. But, you're looking at the eastern U.S., folks, and we'll take a look at the snow side. And sorry to leave you guys hanging a little bit with this, but we'll have to run through this fast. And really what happens here is this thing really gets bogged down, turns into like just a bona fide, just deep low pressure. And snow begins to fall in the Great Lakes region, lower Michigan, even a little snow back here in Wisconsin. And then we start to get into Wednesday morning. This will be a quick hitting, I wouldn't say quick, it might be longer duration. We just got to watch this, but some heavy snow up here in lower Michigan, maybe even definitely into probably the UP and Michigan also. And then really what happens as we get into Wednesday is this low kind of takes over. This becomes a secondary low more so. This low takes over, and we start to get heavy snow in the interior Northeast. Well, how far south will this get into the southern New England range? Now, that's a big question. But heavy snow up here, big winter storm expected, northwest flow wrapping behind this, cold air coming in. And check out this snow flying around on April 4th, the morning of April 4th down here into the southern and central Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, heck, maybe even extreme southeastern Kentucky. But look at this long duration winter storm still ongoing. Thursday afternoon, spinning around. Man, a wild week of weather. Speaking of snow, few inches to several inches showing up in lower Michigan. And then look at West Virginia, folks. Somebody might get 8 to 12 inches of snow in West Virginia of late season spring snow. But look at the interior Northeast. Man, crushed with late season winter storm. You guys have been getting hit hard in March, and here it comes in early April. This could be a big one for Atlanta, Canada, too. So stay tuned. I know I'm not spending a whole lot of time on this. There's just so much severe weather upcoming. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful Easter Sunday, and I'll talk to you this evening.